Thank you for joining our latest LEAP Network episode. Today we had the opportunity to sit down with two experienced professionals in the IT space. The first was Victor Ladeia. He works currently as the head of integration and demand management specialist covering North and South America for Maersk. He's also worked as the head of North America IT with Hamburg Süd. And he started his career in Sao Paulo as an IT analyst and specialist. And he's worked in both the forwarder side with Kuehne+Nagel and again on the container carrier side of the industry within shipping and transportation with Hamburg Süd and Maersk. We also had the pleasure of sitting down with John Conklin. He is the senior business analyst with the Lawfer Group and has worked previously with Hamburg Süd as a business analyst and has incredible project management experience as well as training end users and help desk support capacity. So we were really fortunate to sit down with these two professionals. They covered the gamut of all subjects technical, including AI, cybersecurity, and how IT is being more and more ingrained within shipping and logistics. So I hope you find this interview fascinating, and please comment on the video below if you'd like to engage and ask questions, and we'll be happy to attend to those. Thank you again. Victor, John, thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Great being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot to talk about in terms of IT and logistics, but I must say your facial beards are just incredible.
Telling everything.
I don't know if that's a staple of IT or whatnot, but it's interesting.
Should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
An unspoken qualification, I guess. So that's excellent to see. So you both have worked in shipping and in the technical side of IT. I'm just curious with your experiences, first John and then Victor, how did you intersect those two careers and create the jobs that you have today?
Well, for me it was interesting. I've always been, my whole career I've been involved in software and software development and implementation of applications and things of that nature. My last job before getting into shipping was in warehouse inventory management distribution, so I had a little bit of a foray with those smaller BCO customers that you have into that in terms of dealing with shipping from your customer's perspective. So when I decided to look for something else, and so I happened to know somebody at Hamburg Süd, and it just the timing was right and it was a good fit. So from there I just started learning, about shipping itself, and I've come to enjoy the industry.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like the industry in some ways kind of finds us in a sense, and once we're involved, it's very difficult to extract ourselves from it.
Sure. True.
And Victor, you've dealt now with logistics and shipping in multiple continents, and you've had an IT focus during your time. So I'm curious, what drew you to logistics?
Well, it was a funny thing, because at that time I was working for HP Enterprise Services and GM General Motors Brazil, and I got an email coming from one HR company in Brazil, say, hey, do you have this company? We have this company here, so we'd like to make an interview. Are you interested in this position? I said, well, at that time when I heard the name, I thought, this is a kind of paper company. So I didn't know at all about logistics. I just knew we have trucks and we have things that control those trucks, and that was it. So when I went to this company, this is a very big German company it's a freight forwarder. And when I made all interviews, I had the conversations, I met the CIO. So I just fell in love with that. I saw the size and proportion that thing would cause in my professional life. And then I joined the company, and I spent there 7-8 years. Then I moved again to another logistics company, a shipping company called Hamburg Süd. And I moved again to US for Hamburg Süd. So yeah, I think it's just like you said, when you're in, you cannot get out. It's just you're gonna spend your whole life there. Joey's a lucky guy. He's a very lucky guy. Yeah, but yeah, logistics is just you fall in love or you hate for all your life. This is kind of thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's because it is. I mean, it's such an important industry globally for folks. So, economically, it's just when you're there, you learn the importance, you understand the importance of the industry you're in. So, why would you want to leave that when you know the kind of impact you can possibly have if you stay?
Well said. Yeah, it kind of hooks its tentacles into you and keeps you tethered into it. Mm-hmm. But it is fascinating. I mean, it's not just a straightforward black and white way of doing IT. I mean, logistics, it covers all different levels of supply chain, not just ocean, but domestic transportation and even e-commerce now. So there's multiple avenues and pathways to get kind of involved with things. What were some of your favorite jobs or positions while you've been in IT with a shipping focus during your illustrious careers?
John, you can take I'll go first. Okay. Oh gosh, the project management side for me, and I think working with the software focus and working on more closely with operations to improve the performance. Finding issues that we were having, things that weren't as efficient in operations, and being able to work with operations, design a solution based on IT that really helped the users out and really brought some ROI back into the organization. So yeah, that was the big thing for me. I really enjoyed with the time.
Well, I can tell you that today I like to work with people, but that's not true like 10, 15 years ago. So I came from a very heavy technical background. So I was take care of data centers, infrastructures, things that no one sees but everyone complains about. And I think this is when I started to work with infrastructure on the logistics side. Just became a new reality for me because, today, we have warehouses, we have headquarters, we have a lot of infrastructure embedded in a truck, in the warehouses and all this stuff, right? So it's not something that I can tell, it's just infrastructures just focus in software systems or whatever. It's infrastructures at all, everything. You touch, in technology, you have a piece in infrastructure in the cloud, in a place, closet room or something like that. But I remember that when I joined the logistics, I loved to create environments, new environments. Okay, how can I improve this system? How can I improve this database? How can I create a very great environment to support this operation? So, but then I switched to the management side, and I said, I think now I have to focus. I was a very shy person, close to antisocial. I was not a person.
That's surprising news.
Yeah, that's true. I like to just look at my computer. That was it. I don't like to interact with anyone else. But then I switched that. When I started to work with people, I saw that maybe this is something that I can love. And that's exactly what I do now. I just like to work with people. I like to talk. I like to trust in people. I like to have relationship and create the bond between myself and all this. And not only people that work with me, but people in different departments, people that we interact. So yeah, I started to learn that. I had to learn that, and then I think it became my reality now. I like to work with IT, especially with people. So I think it's just a mix of things. So maybe I can tell a person coming from infrastructure, a background focusing in machines, black boxes or whatever. Now likes to work with people. I said, I think it's a mindset that you have to build along the time, right? And that I think that's the best. Well, that's the thing that I like now. Of course, not 100% of people like that. There's a few ones that you can just
few outliers here and there.
But yeah, you can you use your empathy. You can just be okay, let me understand this person first before I judge.
Yeah, well said. And that brings up an interesting conversation and topic. Victor, you've had extensive management experience with IT firms. John, your project management experience is very vast and really impressive. But when you're trying to get involved with projects that affect change within the organization, specifically with end users within the business, how do you walk that fine line of driving the technicality of a project, but also simplifying things or it makes sense why there is a degree of change, whether it's injecting a new system within the organization or handling a new project that on the surface appears to be more efficient and user-friendly, but it could be a little clunky in the eyes of the end user. So how do you really kind of speak to people on their level, let's say?
I think for me, it's a matter of getting down to their level. When you take that project in, I mean, the first thing you want to do is talk to them. Get their, and I've even told like managers in areas where I've been working on projects, like, we need the buy-in. You need the buy-in from the people who are doing the project, because you can build the efficiency in, but if they don't want to use it, then, and they still have the capabilities of doing something the old way, they're going to migrate to the way they've always known how to do something. But if they're included in the process and they buy into that process, I think you get then that efficiency can get built in and it really can take hold. Yeah, so that's, for me, that's it. It's making sure they're included in that process so that that change and that really can take hold for the company.
Well said.
Yeah, 100%. I think like when you have like the people buying in your project or whatever change you're doing, like you have everything already. Like because you need support. Like because you're impacting like a process, and this is going to impact like a service, an operation. So you know that at the end of the line you're going to impact some financial thing, right? Financial matters. So, but before everything that before you even like consider it like something that I'm implementing the best ERP, I'm implementing like the best, cloud service, portal, whatever. So you need to understand, okay, this is going to affect what? What am I affecting that straight like? So, and I think once that you have control about your environment and see that, okay, this is going to affect people, this is going to affect process, this is going to affect like things that you do not control. So you have to have exactly what John said, like you have to have the buy-in from everyone around you. Otherwise, you cannot be successful in that. Like, if you're impacting people, if you're impacting process, you have to know that you need support from these people being impacted. So I think that's exactly what John said. Like, if you don't have buy-in, you not move forward. Yeah,
and on that line of thinking, I imagine there's a level of salesmanship that has to complement some of these conversations when we're discussing buy-in. And you have to basically talk about the benefits and the ROI, as you mentioned, with an end deliverable. So are those skills you have to kind of leverage, those soft skills and abilities to kind of, let's say, navigate the political landscape of certain organizations and departments?
You want to go that? You'll take that one first.
I don't know if we're opening a can of worms or if we're going down a rabbit hole.
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, one thing that I always know, I always try to see a change as an opportunity, right? So, and not everyone sees like that. Like, everyone has your own opinion about change, but when you have this mindset, okay, maybe this change is going to bring something good for me or everyone around me, I think that's, even that is, you're not sure, like you're not 100% sure, you need to believe that that thing is going to be like the best thing that you can imagine, right? So it's crazy when you do not trust what you're doing and you try to sell that thing that you know that nobody's going to believe you, right? Yeah. So first of all, you have to believe that. You have to believe that change. So once you have that in your mind, you have convince yourself I think this is the best thing. Even have some questions in the back of your mind, but you know that in overall something good is going to come out from here, right? So I think, and this is exactly how the way I think when I go to a meeting that I have to, present something, provide some solutions and design. I need to believe that that thing at that moment is the right thing for this specific person or group, right? And I think that's the way I approach the things. Sometimes you have to consider yourself, okay, let me just rethink about the way I'm gonna, share the information, address the opinions and all the questions. But at the end of the day, if you have a change, you have a project, you have to implement, you have to convince people.
Yes.
So that's the way I see it.
And believe it yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and for me, it's all about the audience. I mean, when you've got a project, you've got that different audience. We talked about, the end users, you've got the stakeholders, the managers, the other people in ops. You've got to be able to communicate at their level so that, because the stakeholder cares about the ROI. How is it going to, the user wants to make sure it's going to make their job easier, and it's not going to eliminate their job. I mean, a lot of times what we deal with IT is we're going to make a change, what people hear is, oh, my job's in trouble. And, you've got to, a lot of it is communicating, no, we're making things more efficient so that you can focus on other things. It's not that kind of change. So you've got to be able to talk at those different levels. I think that's one of the challenges for somebody in our area is, you have these different levels, that you have to sell. You have to be able to talk at those levels. And not everybody's, good at that.
Fair.
That's a very great thing, like, because if you think like you have like different levels, just like you said, John, like you have to talk to the CIO, you have to talk like to a general manager, and you have to talk to the analyst that is going to like put a hands on and to do exactly what he has to do, right? So I think another thing that sometimes we have to take in our minds, like, is something that, okay, I'm responsible for the message that I'm saying, right? So the people, they're not responsible to receive that, but I need to be responsible to send the right message to the right audience.
Right.
So I'm not, like John said, like I'm talking about numbers with the CIO, the guy from the finance, but the person that is right there just coming every day trying to provide to his family. So he needs to understand that we're not taking away your job. We're just improving because we put a lot of value in what you're doing. So I think that's the message you have to, you must be responsible to everything that I just said.
Yeah, absolutely. And really be the champion of that change to talk about the value adds and how it can improve a person's effectiveness in the job they're in versus completely transform what they're doing in a negative way from their perspective. So, we're now a few years since the impetus of COVID took place. And it's interesting bringing up that subject with the two of you because I think digitalization was such a key subject during that time. And we had really vast amounts of people in logistics, millions even, who were used to going to work, opening their computer, logging on, checking emails, and now they have to do that and manage things remotely and communicate with teams in a very sophisticated way, in almost an isolated way. So we see the surface level manifestation of that, but I'm curious what happened in the back end to make that actionable and in terms of an actual execution of teams and colleagues engaging with one another with the same effectiveness remote that they used to have in the office.
Chaos, right?
Chaos.
Yeah. Everything that happened during COVID, yeah.
I mean, there was definitely a very short period of time. I mean, there was, you had to, IT had to react. Yep. And, I think, in some cases, I mean, where we were at the time, I think we were very fortunate because we had just gotten Teams and 360 and some of these things in and utilized. I think, so our timing couldn't have been better. I think, there would have been even more chaos. I mean, had we taken, a couple of months prior, it would have been real chaos because, we wouldn't have been able, people would have been at home and I don't know how, it would have been email communications, I think, primarily. So, where technology was at the time it happened, I think, for a lot of industries, having those capabilities to video conference and do some of that stuff and what now for us is now mainstream and just, it's, every day you just go and do it. I think at that time, a lot of folks really hadn't taken to it or didn't think, it's not really needed. But thank goodness that technology was there. Because I think there would have been a lot of businesses, including logistics, that would have suffered quite a bit had we not had some of those things in place.
Yeah, I think, well, before COVID, you always saw the potential that IT can provide to the business, right? That was a very clear truth for us. But the thing is that, okay, when you try to turn this into reality, especially when you have a very conservative company, sometimes it doesn't work. Right. So, and that, I think, if you can consider something good with COVID, I think that was it. COVID just gave a huge bump on technology that we used to have before COVID. Right. So, I think the results that I had after COVID, of course, during the COVID, we have to adjust ourselves, not only in the way that we're working, but also the way we provide support, the way we attend meetings, the way we have to provide trustship, about what we're doing. I remember we had a lot of troubles with our infrastructure
Yep.
before COVID, right? VPN was not working. So I remember 6 months before we had COVID hit, we had like this huge action plan. Like, we have to solve that thing before. So I think it was like the right time to consider that, because we didn't see like anything coming, but we knew that it had a problem. So, and after, I believe like 1 month or 2 months before COVID, we kind of solved the problem, but then came the next phase. So how can it just, communication is the best thing, right? So we have to improve that. So how can we do that? So then the things started to expedite, like the things coming, the projects being created in Europe coming to us. So we have to expedite this, we have to expedite that, we have to implement the teams, we have to, 365. Of course, we have like, since 2017 when the company got Hamburg sued, we're always like listening, like hearing that, we have to come, someday we're going to migrate. So from 2017 to 2020, 3 years, we didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But everything that we didn't do like 3 years, we did in 6 months or less, right?
It was a bit of a shotgun wedding,
exactly.
I think.
So,
It was. It needed to be. I mean,
It
was, COVID, that was the one thing COVID forced the hand up. I mean, we had to, you had to be able to keep business going. You had to be able to communicate, with your people, with the staff, with your teams. How are you going to do that? Everybody was looking to IT to provide the solution. How are we going to do this? And we had to be able to roll with the punches. We had to think out of the box as much as we could to say, we can do it this way. We can do it this way. Here's, we've got your group here. We've set up this teams for your group and secured it down. And this is how you do this. And, there was a lot of training that had to go on for a lot of people in a very short period of time. And, I think but the benefit for us was everybody knew they had to do it.
Yeah.
Because they were struggling otherwise. So, we're talking about going back to that buy-in before. There was buy-in. There was no argument.
There was a clear necessity to adapt or
exactly.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very interesting time because there was a profundity of chaos just on a socio-economic level. But then behind the scenes, you're dealing with all these different moving parts. From an IT infrastructure perspective, you're trying to get systems working, making sure people have access to internal networks, communication barriers were kind of strained. So I definitely tip my hat off to a lot of those IT professionals that were at the forefront there, making sure some of the chaos was leveled off a little bit. Yeah. But I do imagine, despite the need for this change, there was some potential resistance or perhaps frustration. Did you notice some of that within the professional circles?
Like, all the time, right? Every time we have like I said, like changes. Not everyone sees the change like as a good thing, like as a benefit, right? And even though that like you have like a global pandemic and you have to change, you have to work from home, and to work from home, we have to enable a few things for you so you are able to do your job. So even though like we listen, like people complain, I don't want to do that, it's not part of my job. So yeah, it's the kind of things that I can just put like aside and then let's focus on the big picture, and then after that, we're going to just solve that thing. But of course, we always have like people complaining, and I think like that's the best side when you're a shy person and not close to antisocial person, because you're kind of try to avoid that thing. You don't like take relevance. Like you're talking to me, but I'm not listening. So that's the way I think. I think Johnny's very good to that. Like sometimes someone say something like Johnny's just all right, laughing and fine. Yeah. So he never takes like personal. Like it's not with him. Like
nope.
Yeah.
Can't.
And it's exactly the way you have to be. Like sometimes the person is complaining about the change that is coming to exactly to her, this person, but that's the thing. It's not something like personal. It's everything coming in the same bowl, like doing the same thing and taking the same hit. So
yeah, and I think going back to like all the technology that had to come in and people had to start using, as part of COVID. Some of the stress and I think the frustration that we had people feel is like you have somebody in finance who's very good with numbers, who's very good, can do with spreadsheets and can do with that. Now you got to teach them Teams. Now you got to teach them this, and they're not technically savvy. So I think there was where you saw the frustration was in here's a new tool that you have to use, but you're not technology-wise you're not real savvy. So how do we
It's not your
how do I do
instinct.
this? It's not their instinct. They know numbers. They know they know process. They know the physical things to run the company. So now they've got to learn these other pieces, and that's where I think we got a lot of the resistance.
Exactly.
Is I why do I need to learn this now? I mean, they understood why they had to, but that was just not in their repertoire of things they did like we do, every day.
Yeah.
So it made it a little bit of a challenge, but at the same time, at the end of the day, it got done. People understood, and business moved on.
Yeah. And imagine like a person doing the same thing for 25 years. Like the phone, calling, putting the phone away, just working a spreadsheet, and sometimes someone comes and say, hey, you're not using your phone anymore. You're going to use a headset. Forget your spreadsheet. You're going to use the system. It's really the end of the world, right? So
To say it was a disruption doesn't even quantify it properly with the impact there. And, it's interesting. I think now in a post-COVID way where everyone must change in order to conform with working remote or dealing with computers and technology in an isolated way away from the office, there's a training component that comes with that. So have you noticed that you almost have to self-guide professionals on what to do and kind of encourage them to operate a little more independently versus like when the heart of COVID took place? I think from what I could observe, IT was doing much more hand-holding on an hour-by-hour, minute-by-minute basis. So have you kind of tried to transform even IT to say, hey, we're going to teach you how to fish fully and make sure you have the tools and can conform to those things more independently versus having to rely on us so directly?
I think there are two ways, right? The first one is the people that they don't want to be like dependent. Like, no, this is my problem. Can you solve it? But of course, there's people like person that, well, let me know what I have to do, right? Where I can find the answer. So I think you have like two types of people that you can teach them how to do it, and you have to do what they want, right? But I'm talking about the IT people. Like, I think sometimes, especially in COVID, we had to push ourselves to learn first, even though not knowing anything, right?
Yes.
So that's the way we act, like in behind the curtains, because we knew things that we're gonna have problems. We know things that are gonna crash if you want from one night to another day, like from overnight, someone decides, oh, everyone goes home, work from home, and that's it. So we knew it, right? So I think everyone in the team at that time was just like very responsible to understand, okay, we had a lot of problems. First of all, we can't complain and not do anything. We're second, we're going to learn ourselves how to solve that and just try to fix it. So, and our team, especially like everyone, most of the people that we had on our team, they're just like very proactive. Like they knew about the problem. They want to fix it, right? So, and I think like, of course, we had to learn first. Sometimes we had to learn like to run before walk, right? Because like, especially with teams, like when teams came to us, was just like, well, okay, how do you do that? Like how this works. So we had to at least like have a guidebook for ourselves to understand all the questions that would come to us. So I think it was like a very good work for preparation before we go live for the random users, so regular users.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah, it was us having the hands-on early, so we knew where the trouble spots might come in for users. Definitely paid dividends. But I also think too, as a team, we all knew different little pieces because we all played in different areas, of the applications that ultimately got needed. So, for the service desk guys, if they got something in, it was really more of a team, approach to, solving the issue. It was like, throw it out to everybody and say, okay, well, I've done this, so we could do it this way, and what's the best route to take? And I think, sometimes that, is missed on the IT side, because I think a lot of folks, IT-wise, want to be their own individual person and not work in that team environment. So finding that group of people who work well together, from an IT perspective, and can definitely push change and push, new technology out to users in a way that, they, for the most part, feel comfortable. They may not feel comfortable with the technology, but if they feel comfortable with the team, then things can get done.
That's interesting, that optic piece where you foster the collaboration internally, then it almost has like a trickle-down effect within the business. And they, I think, more embrace IT and the mandates that they're discussing and the training and systems that are coming to pass. So that is an interesting symbiotic relationship that you have articulated.
Yeah. And I can tell one thing, like if you have a problem, like IT-wise, I can tell there's someone in their own house, like taking a shower and thinking about your problem. How are they going to solve that? Absolutely.
That's a good image to think about today.
How can I solve Sean's problem?
That's right. Absolutely. That's the recipe.
I think for me, well, especially for me, sometimes when I just like relax into it, I find some answer for the problem that I have, like especially in IT, right? I don't know, like have to create like a something, database, a query, so whatever. So sometimes it comes to us like, especially when it's not working like officially. So.
Well, the three of us have a mutual former colleague who kind of made a career out of that, where he would get involved with a project, he would get kind of flustered or lambasted with things, and then he'd just kind of walk away, have a conversation, grab a cup of coffee, take 30 minutes, and then it was almost like euphoria, where he'd come up with a solution on his own and come back to the working operation. So I think that is important to take a step back, reassess things, and then kind of calibrate the project accordingly.
I think a lot of people have a tendency to overthink. You know, you get, you have a problem you need to solve, and if you get in too deep, you start overthinking it, and then your mind kind of stops. So you need to kind of step away or do something, or even in the shower. It's because then your mind opens up. You start thinking about other things, and your mind's had a chance to kind of think back, and then it starts looking at other things a little more rationally, and that's when you typically find your find your solution. So somebody who's willing to do that, I mean, I think it's important to be able to do, regardless of whether you're IT or non-IT. I think it's just should be a normal process for folks. If you're overthinking stuff, take a break.
Absolutely. Let the release valve work a little bit there.
Yeah.
So going back to the project management piece, when you're involved with one of these sophisticated endeavors that involve different stakeholders, different subject matter experts and professionals, you really still have to balance driving the project and making sure there's momentum, but also kind of managing the personalities a bit. And it's interesting in those roles because you don't necessarily have hierarchical authority over the people you're involved with, but you still have to manage the business and manage the work. So how do you balance those components? Because at the end of the day, you're dealing with people, right? We're thinking, breathing individuals. We all have our own priorities. We're not necessarily machines or robotics. So I'm curious, what are some of the tips and advice you can provide with managing those different components within the confines of the project?
I think honestly, it's honesty. It's being upright, being forthright with the individuals. You can always create, with any project you want to create a timeline or give them a timeline, say, estimate it's going to take this long. But any good person in IT knows, especially if it's something along the development lines, once it gets in the hands of developers, there's going to be questions, there's going to be other things that may come up. So, as long as the communication, between you and the developer and whatever roadblocks that are run into, you're passing along in a timely manner, you're not sitting on it. So that those stakeholders, that the end users know, where you're running into struggles, and then they're involved in the process, so they're hopefully able to then provide the solutions. But they also have a realistic expectation then still of the timeline. If the timeline's been expanded, they know why. So being honest with them through the course of the project and where things are going and what roadblocks are hit and when, and what the estimated time is to resolve those, I think is the key there. Of course, there's always that person who says, I want it next amount of time, and there's, that's it, and that's, when I need it. But most people I found are open. As long as you keep that honest communication going, you let them know every step of the way where the project is and what roadblocks, they're open. And, it also adds to being a more successful project in the end, once you get it to completion.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, aside of that, I think when you have a project assigned to you, you have something to deliver, right? It's not about because it's John or Sean or Victor that are doing that. It's just like a project that you have to deliver. So it doesn't matter if you have like a person complain about that thing because that person doesn't like what is going to happen, but that's the way it is. You have to deliver it. So again, it's all about like communication. You have to communicate. I understand your pain. I know that's not gonna, maybe not seen a good way. That's the way it is, right? So having this clear communication, always like one thing that I always hear, like when I try to remind myself every time that I get a new project, say, okay, if you want to make a mistake, like make a mistake early. Like, you have to make a mistake. You're gonna do a mistake, right? But be able to fix that. Like, if you have to do a mistake, do it, but then fix and move on. So I think like if you have this mindset, not always like trying to cover things, I don't know, be not like clear enough to everyone involved in that project. I think this is going just to, I don't know, destroy your project, destroy yourself, or as a professional. So you must be like a very clear person with very good communication skills. Like, you have to communicate about the project. Be clear about everything that is happening, budget, people, resource, everything. Otherwise, it's not your project. You are just managing that project, right? It's someone else. It's a company project. So you have to, you are responsible to provide information, feedbacks, and everything about that project to another person. So it's not yours. It's not you. It's not that person. It's exactly the thing that you have to execute.
Yeah, you're acting as a steward, kind of in that capacity. And that's clear on the communication piece. I think that's really important to emphasize and utilize within these project scopes. But have you encountered any situations in your careers where there's been a senior leader that's really just putting a lot of pressure and extra emphasis on a project to get delivered when you know in the back of your head this is really unrealistic? And have you had to kind of come up against those areas of contention, let's say, and paint the accurate picture of reality to ensure that all stakeholders, including senior leaders, are on the same page?
Yeah, I mean, there are definite times to do, that where that has come into play. I think, some of the other points is there are certain projects that come up where, due to outside regulations or outside changes, you're up against a deadline. I mean, you have, good example, which is fairly recent, is the OSRA changes. They came into effect. There was a certain date. OSRA said you've got to have these things done by and put into place. So if if we didn't have the developers design and solve that problem by that time frame, now the company's got a problem. So you've got to be able to communicate the opposite direction in those cases back to the developer, say, you've only got this window. You need to get to work and get it done in this period of time. We've designed it out for you. Get it done. But yeah, I mean, on the other side too, if somebody's giving you a project that is going to be 6 months a year and they want it done in 3, I think that's where, going back to that honesty thing, you be able to lay it out to say, okay, look, this is how much development time based on what you're asking for. This is really how much time realistically this is going to take. I think that's in some cases that's where I think agile comes in a lot of places, because if you can come up with quick wins or things of that nature from the development side to give them something, then you kind of keep things moving and going, and the stakeholders are a little bit more receptive to the fact in some cases that because you've given them something within the time frame that they've kind of asked for. So.
Yeah, I think exactly spot on, John. So I also think that part of the project manager role is manage expectations, right? So if you know that's not going to happen, that's not going to happen, right? So that someone like just said like you have to deliver in 3 months, but it's impossible. So you have to work with this person, just providing like the clear view about what is really happening, or what's the real truth, right? And I think like expectations, just like John mentioned about Scrum, like deliver something more, even if there's nothing, but the person has a feeling like, oh, we're doing something, right? Something's happened, so we're not stuck. So I think that feeling, like this expectation that, oh, we're doing at least something, I think it's most beneficial that, wait for 3 more months to get something. So yeah, I think a big part of the project management is expectations, because you're dealing with people, like especially if people ready.
And keep the transparency element
Exactly.
alive and well
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So when we survey the landscape of IT, cybersecurity is a hot button topic that's been coming up recently. And I think within logistics, it's a top 5 sector that's likely going to be targeted by a major IT attack or cyber attack within the next 5 years. So with that in mind, how have organizations evolved to kind of combat some of that and make efforts to be more preventative to avoid the issue in the first place?
Want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll let you start that one.
There's a lot of meat on the bone there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think cybersecurity has been always an issue, right? And not like for the last, 10 years, but probably more the last 25 years, 30 years, right? Because I grew up just listening about hackers, attacks, Russia, Ukraine, whatever, all those kind of stuff that, well, if you are an IT guy, you like IT, you know everything about it. Like, you know what they're talking about. So I think cyber risk is not like a new thing. It's just like a very old thing. But the thing is that nobody's just putting like all the effort they have to try to avoid any kind of cyber attack or whatever. You start to think about, I have to improve my cyber policies. I have to create like a department to handle and manage all the cyber risks that I have once you get something, right? And that's the problem, right? So right now, I think for the last 10 years, we have seen like the cybersecurity officer, all those new roles coming up to the market. I think that's something that is just like being there for a long time, but everyone has just put eyes on it because we are I think we are more connected community than 10 years ago, like TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, X, all those social medias that they're just propagating like all the bad things and the good things, right? So now I think the cyber risks that I have today is very different than what I had in the past. Because in the past, we're just like looking for someone coming to my bank and, well, I don't know, rob all the money that I have. Now it's different. Like, they're just trying to avoid a specific hacker, just, I don't know, shut down an entire country or entire company, right? So I think it's just like a kind of way that you're seeing like in a different perspective because cyber problems we always have like in the past, and then now it's just like in a way how we're managing, how much effort we're putting on it to avoid risks. And I think it's a kind of natural thing now, especially for this generation, because 15 years ago we never thought about multi-factor authentication, right?
Right.
So now you have to have it. Like a person, my kid, like my son, he's 10 now. He has multi-factor authentication for his tablet. Holy crap! So really, at his age, I was just eating dirt and playing soccer in the street. So, and I think it's just like a kind of mindset that this generation, and of course, like we've been part of that. Like we saw these things growing. Like we saw all the new policies, the new departments, the new books or whatever that I have to read just to understand how can we avoid those things. And like I said, I think like cyber risk we always have like in the past, but now is the amount of effort and money you're putting to try to avoid that's coming like is becoming more like open, like everyone is seeing that. It's more common than before. So I think that's only the way that I have to make some RP because I'm just creating like a new cyber team just to avoid like the attack that I have 2017 is just like something that nobody was expecting that but happened. Yeah. So what are they gonna do, right? So it's just a kind of mindset. They have that, so what they're doing now. So it's a kind of they are just putting more things like in out loud just to let I maybe like just the way I'm trying to say is just like now we have more propaganda than before. Mm-hmm. Right? It's more exposed, right? So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think, for a long time, folks viewed criminals as going into a bank and stealing money and holding up a convenience store. Now it's much more isolated. So yeah, it's shifting the mindset and putting the focus more on those preventative pieces that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and also too, from a criminal standpoint, you're not putting a face. When somebody had to go into a bank, your face is there. It's like, with cybercrime, you're completely, there is no face. They don't know who you are. It can be completely anonymous. Yeah. I think the bigger issue is, you can have a cybersecurity team and department, and that's great, and they can look at the infrastructure, and they can look at some of the key elements in IT, but some of the vulnerability areas, are really things like the email and some of those things, which is then really everybody's responsibility. Everybody in the organization should be responsible for, looking, knowing, if they get something in, being able to scrutinize it and look at certain key pieces of an email to say, this doesn't seem right, that's not right. And a lot of people, I see it in multiple organizations, they don't, it's just, oh, I got this from this person, oh, let me just see, oh, that looks interesting, click, or let me see this link. And next thing you know, now the company's got an issue. So, it's an important topic, I think, right now. I mean, just given the nature of where, IT has gone with a lot of things in the cloud and a lot of things, no real like main physical servers, in locations anymore where you could typically do things with.
Just one comment. The way I see, I'm saying that we always had like cyber teams in the past, not trying to put a bad word on what we have today. It's just because we didn't have we didn't put like so much attention in what we had in the past compared to what we have now, right? I remember that time that we just had like a network specialist, but that guy was responsible for everything, like the whole network, database, everything. He knew everything about the network, and he was a guy of kind of person that was responsible for security, right? So I think it's just like, and I totally appreciate like all those words they're just putting about like the cyber officers, all these new rules, because we really need that. We're just shifting the age, right? We're shifting the generations, and we have to evolve. We have to move forward.
But you'd agree too. I mean, we need that because of the technology, the infrastructure, the networks have become so sophisticated now, so open that you need a group to really focus on that component.
Exactly.
So.
Just like a different way to say, well, we evolved, right? The past we have network, now we have cloud. So we have the network specialist, now we have a cloud specialist. So this is the kind of thing I want to say. Yeah.
And that opens doors to a lot of new career paths and growth opportunities within the IT space as well.
Sure. Yep.
Which are really exciting and much needed, clearly.
Yeah. At that time, I remember a few friends of mine, like they were just trying to take the CCNA, CCNP from Cisco. So all the certifications regarding network, and now they're just looking forward to cybersecurity, Azure, AWS, all these certifications that focus on services and cloud and policies, so and security, right? So it's the same thing, but in a different generation, right? So we evolve, and we have to evolve the role. That's the way I see it.
For sure. Well said. In that vein, in terms of new anomalies within IT. AI is kind of the name of the game, and it's one of the hot buzzwords out there. Exactly. And, by 2030, it's estimated that 50% of decisions within the supply chain organization will come through AI. So with that kind of emphasis there, what do you think companies can do to get ahead of the AI phenomenon?
I think it's really just getting started. I think there's a lot, that is going to get done with it. My concern is that people will try and go too far too fast. I definitely see some definite benefits and uses. Especially in terms of like right now. I mean, we're looking at AI and just being able to extract data out of physical documents that we weren't able to where right now that's a very manual process for a lot of people. So if you can get those in from a vendor or from some other location, and I mean the more set documents that are standardized, where these are where the data elements are. AI is great at extracting that out and then moving it, if you need to, right into your TMS system. So you can actually, save huge amounts of time and cut down on a lot of, data entry. I think, focusing there first, and then, some of these other areas in, the Google AI and some of this stuff, I've looked at some of that, and it's really cool tech. I mean, it really is. I mean, it can do stuff, but it's not 100% yet. I mean, the algorithms are great, but you have to train them. You have to, they have to learn, and it takes time. So I think there's certain applications right now where I think it could be really beneficial. I think if companies focus on those areas and then grow it from there.
What's an example area of what they can?
Well, like the documents. So you take a bill of lading, you take a commercial invoice, say, and you take that information. It's a set form. Extract the data, put it into your something like an IFS or something like that, and then the data's there instead of somebody in one of the departments having to, I got this document now, here, let me type it in, put it into the system. Great. I think Maersk tried to do a little bit with some of the blockchain and some of the other stuff, which was great. I think honestly down the road, I think it's probably a combination of AI and that could be really something to look at, because now you're looking at data integrity and things of that nature, which could I think that's really where the power is for a business right now.
No, I totally agree. I think we just need to separate like AI is a trendy topic and AI the useful part, right? Because everyone say, I have AI in my phone. Yeah, I understand, but that's not the same AI concept that I have to work in my supply chain, right? The thing is that I think it's a totally different thing, but the purpose is the same. So we want to create things that to disrupt the way we work, right? And add value what we're doing. And for the supply chain especially, I think that's a huge benefit, because you can just look at a warehouse. So you can just combine the warehouse, the picking spots and everything, like using AI, right? So it can accommodate the cargo coming to the warehouse, allocating like in the best way. That this product is selling like faster than this one. So AI can just work with that. So it's just like a tiny thing, but like especially if the vessels. Well, what's the best routes that I have today? If you put more chips, if you put like more routes closed or alternatives. So I think AI for us, like especially for the logistics business, is crucial, because we have to use it, but not in a way that we don't thinking as IT, right? We don't want to create something to fire someone, right? It's just put the life better, like let you have more time to you and your family, right? So I think that's the way we should like thinking on AI. And the way Maersk is doing, I think it's great, because right now you have a lot of projects happening for MBM, TBM that, PT is a very good example, right? So we have like warehouses totally, fully automated.
Yeah.
So I think we have to do that, and we have but not as a trend topic. Just do something because everyone's talking about it, and then goes down. And no, I think if you look like in a way that we have to save money, I think it's not the best way, because AI it's expensive. Not only like the people that are developing, everything around AI is expensive. So if you want to do something with AI, forget the money, because you're going to spend a lot. You're going to just burn money. So, but I think it's crucial. You have to invest. We have to do something, and we have I think AI is going to think outside of the box in something that we never thought of before. So if you put like AI in a situation that we never been before, of course you're going to get like options for us. Like you're going to just spit out something for us. But is the best thing? We don't know. So we have time. We must have like a lot of time to understand those concepts, understand, what kind of options, what kind of path we're going to create with AI. Well, I think it's just like a learning curve. We have time. We have a lot of time to do that. But again, we cannot see as a trend topic. We have to see like this is an option that we have, not something that we're just doing because everyone is doing.
And build a strategy behind it that's very focused.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what people have to really, I think, understand, I mean, with AI is, I mean, it's an algorithm. I mean, it's still, you're developing an algorithm that, yes, hopefully is going to learn over time. So to just be able to say, okay, we're going to put AI here. Well, if there's no algorithm for that, and you haven't built an algorithm for that, AI probably is not going to work very well for you. So, it's, having somebody knowledgeable enough who can, and those algorithms aren't easy to put together either. That's why you talk about the expense. Yeah. I mean, that's why there's such an expense to AI right now. So, for specific tasks from a business intelligence perspective and size, having those algorithms built and then letting it grow from there, I think that's where I think a lot of the emphasis in the next 5 years, 10 years is going to be. It's going to be, where do we want to solve, issues and problems with? How do we need to, is there an algorithm for it already? And the companies that build those algorithms are the ones that are going to make the money.
Certainly, yes.
Or do you have, I think, there's soon you're going to have, people, kids coming out of school and some of that stuff where, or people who are just learning it now, who can, you'll have in your company where you can say you can build it, they can design it, which will maybe elongate the project a little bit, but at the same time cost maybe a lot less, and now you're investing company-wise, you're invested, and with somebody who's in the industry and knowledgeable. So I think ultimately down the line it's going to be a fantastic tool. I think we're just in the infancies, and that's big. I guess my biggest concern is people are going to try and rush, because it's the new buzzword. They're going to try and rush it in and push it into a business, and that to me ultimately could be more harm than good.
Exactly.
So
move more with a methodical mindset with injecting AI into different business functions.
Yeah. I think when you have objective, right? I need to create my supply chain, my warehouse more effective, right? So you have objective. But when you bring AI to solve this problem that I have, perfect. That's the way you have to approach. But when it just, we have AI as an option, so okay, what this thing is bringing to the table? Oh no, let's just use it. No, I don't think that's not the best approach, because it's just bringing something that you do not have control, touch everything that we have, and you don't know what the results of that, right? So I think you have to be careful in a way that I know what I'm doing, and I know what I'm just providing to this tool to spit out for me. Then okay, we'll just bring it in and let's see what happens. I think that's not good.
Yeah, clear. There's a socioeconomic stereotype around AI that there are a lot of negatives behind it because it's uncontrollable. And it can kind of deal with itself independently from human engagement, let's say. Is there any credence to that? Is that real? Is it more of just kind of like a horror story type of beginning line?
I think, again, it's an algorithm. It's supposed to be learning. It's artificial intelligence. It's supposed to be learning. It's supposed to be growing in and of itself. I think within a certain capacity. I mean, I think it's probably more. I have more of a concern with like the AI and stuff on Apple and on and Google AI and the stuff on the phones, because you have a much more broader audience that's using it and building out the algorithm. AI in terms of use for business. I think you're going to have specific algorithms in specific areas like the warehouse, and things of that nature, where it's going to grow in this confined environment for this specific purpose. So I don't see that necessarily being an issue, managed properly by the company.
Agreed. I think like AI you have in your phone is most dangerous than compared to what you have in a company, because it's listen to everything, has access to your bank accounts and everything, so it's just like in the same device. So if one day Skynet goes up and wants to get your money, you have the tool, you have everything in your phone, that's it.
I'll be calling you to resolve that when that happens, so keep your number on speed dial here. But it is interesting. I mean, when you go on these different social media websites and then an hour later you see a marketing or advertisement for a product that you were just kind of searching or interested in before, immediately populate within your mobile device. It's very impressive, the sophistication there, but there is potentially a negative, especially with younger generations and the like there.
Yeah. I think this generation, they don't have knowledge about what is surrounding on like everything, like AI. Say I just bring one example. I was talking to my son, and we were talking about like my dad in the past, what my dad was doing down, like in 70s, 60s, and he just came down to his Ladeia and asked about my dad's name, and came up something. I said, oh, really? So this is dangerous as F, right? Because you can find out everything that you want. Of course, they have like boundaries because they cannot like put in details what they're talking about, especially asking for a name, right? But even though like if some code, right, some line backs up, that's it. Like everything's there. It's crazy,
Yeah, and it's just really more too for me. It's just the amount, like with the Google and the Apple AI, it's like just the amount of people it's learning from. Yeah. You look at the, where, in a business AI environment, whatever algorithms that are designed for business intelligence to do a particular event, they're learning from a much smaller pool and a very specific function. So it's, that's, I think that's really where the power, we're going to see the power of AI from a business perspective in a business environment is leveraging it in those specific cases to really make, build efficiencies in and move data and things along for organizations where, before, if it was a manually entered process, sometimes that could take days. I mean, if it was a sizable amount of data that's manually, that could take days to get in, where now AI can automate that and make that substantially faster and more efficient. Not that it eliminates the human by any stretch of the imagination, because I don't think it'll ever be 100%. You're going to be a 90, you're going to be a 80, 90% maybe with whatever it's doing. So you're going to need somebody to oversee.
Certainly.
But with what I've looked at in terms of AI and some of the stuff we've been looking at, you put in thresholds. I mean, so when you set up when you're scanning or pulling data from a document or something like that, you'll establish for different data types a threshold that'll come in. And when that form comes in and it reads the data or pulls the data out, if that form doesn't meet a certain percentage threshold, then it'll kick it out for exception so that a user can look at it and review it. And then when they make their adjustments and changes, the whole key is it learns from that. So, it may take a few times for that particular change, but once that's done, now that's into that, it's into that algorithm now. So the next time that document comes in with those kind of changes, it's handled. So it now meets the threshold and just moves through, and it makes that human's effort that much less.
They'll become turning people lazy, right? That's
right.
And that's the way it is, right? Everyone is just becoming more lazy. Because, right? Let's create like a resume. Nah. Hey, create a resume for me. That's how it works now, right?
Yeah. See, I look at it a little different. I was like, oh, you got somebody doing 10 different jobs, and this was one of them. True. One of them.
You're right.
So now you take that off their plate.
Put that perspective on the.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah.
But certainly it can make employees much more efficient.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So I think as a novice to IT in the technical space, I've noticed that the barrier to entry being much different than what it once was to get involved with the technical profession. I think, 25, 30 years ago, you would have to really know someone in the industry and almost apprentice with them and get familiar with coding and the like. Now you can go do a simple 2-year school and get a certificate and really start boots on the ground within an organization and assist with their IT, get involved immediately. So I'm curious what advice you can provide to prospective students and even younger adults who want to get more involved with this work, and just provide some guidance to them and shed some light on what they could do to capitalize on different training opportunities to get that backing to begin a career in IT.
Ooh. Yeah, and I think a lot of the reason I think that is, and then the bar is lower, is because you want to learn a program language, you want to learn something, you want to learn project management. That's great. I mean, you're going to learn the basics, you're going to learn the fundamentals of how to do that or how to program in that language. I think why the bar is lower to some degree is companies have understood that there's more to it than just knowing how to program in Java or knowing how to program in .NET. You need to know the industry a little bit. You need to know, what, so that when you get that project, you get the, instead of just saying code it this way, you can ask the proper questions, or you can code it in a certain way that you're taking into account variables that may not have been asked, or, the users who made the request didn't give us that information, and the project manager didn't ask. So I think businesses see that a lot. So I think that's where things have, go down for somebody who's trying to get in. It's like, don't be afraid to go for it. I mean, if there's an industry you want and you have, your basic level of knowledge, go for it. Realize you may not start at a top level, but I mean, to get into an industry like ours and be able to get accepted and start cutting your teeth on, whatever projects and stuff we're doing or languages that we're doing and growing from there, I think, you couldn't go wrong with a career in this industry. I mean, definitely, especially from an IT perspective.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Because we're always changing.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. Yeah. So if you look back like 30 years ago, we have, I don't know, more than 30 years, 40, 50 years, just have Pascal, C++, right? And then you have the person that just put together pieces to create like a computer, right? And then everything evolved to like, we have a Java, we have Visual Studio. So the options are coming. So every generation, every 10 years, whatever, you're going to have like different things. You're going to have like different positions, different professionals. So I think, and just touching the point about the cybersecurity thing, like now, cybersecurity officers, like analysts, they're the trending profession, right? So that's the thing. So IT will be there. If you have like a bot doing a job, you're going to have someone in behind that just programming or doing something, right? Put some maintenance, pulling the cable, whatever, right? But you're always going to have like someone looking after that thing. And I think like if you like that, go for it. I think that's the way I got here. That's the way John started his career in IT, because I think I love IT, even sometimes wanting to kill someone, but you love the thing that you do, right? Things that just getting like things more clear, more easier to the people that are just using that tool they're just created, or especially like you're just trying to bring more value to on the daily basis for that person executing like specific tasks. So I think like when you're providing value, just creating like things that can like become the life more easier in a way that not become lazier, right? But easier in a way that I can spend more time with my family. I think that's crucial. That's exactly what we're looking for, IT perspective. Yeah.
And that's where some of the value is, to your point. Yeah, sound advice. Well, John, Victor, appreciate your expertise today. And I'll say it again, you have the best facial hair in the technical profession. So appreciate you joining us today and providing your insight on all these excellent and really relevant topics.
Yeah, appreciate the invite, Sean. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Sean.
Thank you, gents.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.